like, actually, I was driving the fire truck back to the firehouse, and I look over my captain. I'm like, how cool would it be if that smoke alarm could just turn the stove off? Like, we never would have gotten called here. Like, the apartment wouldn't be full of smoke. If that stove could just turn itself off. Recognize the difference of like AC/DC and a sound of a smoke alarm. Like,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
like AC/DC was like the worst. Like, we knew, like, if someone plays AC/DC and one of my mentors says, hey, Shark Tank's here this weekend, they're doing an open call just for anyone come pitch, you should do it. I'm like, I don't want to do it. And I'm like, I don't think I'm going to. And then Saturday morning, I'm like, all right, I'll go.
Welcome to Manufacturing Insiders. Today I have Peter Thorpe with me. Peter has a lot of interesting stuff to share with us today. He's an entrepreneur, an 18-year veteran of the firefighting force. He is just amazing how he's been able to kind of, while he had a full-time job, take a product all the way from idea, conception to really selling a lot of them throughout the country. It's an important product. It's a life-saving product. And he's been on Shark Tank, and he's a lot to share, as far as supply chain, as far as, issues we're having with the tariffs, as far as how to market a product and get it into the marketplace. So welcome to Manufacturing Insiders, Peter.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me, Nate. Looking forward to this time.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us the story of how you came up with the idea for Fire Avert, what it does, and and just how you've been able to get it to where it is today.
Yeah. Okay. That's a fun story. Kind of a long story. We'll make it short though. But I started my career off as a full-time firefighter. My grandfather was a firefighter, so I always wanted to do. Got hired on like the dream city that I wanted to work for. But early on in my career, I realized that every tour at that firehouse, we'd go on a kitchen fire. It was just something that I kind of started realizing, just kind of something I could bank on. Just knew was going to happen. We get dispatched to, smoke showing, homeowner's not home. We'd pop the door, crawl into the smoke, and it was just food left on the stove, like again and again. And on one of these calls was an apartment complex, and there's smoke, coming through the windows, chuck full of smoke. We're excited as firefighters, right? That's what we train for. We're excited. Right. We mask up, pop the door, smoke alarm is blaring, and again, disappointment. It's just food, like no flames, just food left on the stove. And so like during this call, the idea just kind of pops in my head. I'm like, actually, I was driving the fire truck back to the firehouse, and I look over my captain. I'm like, how cool would it be if that smoke alarm could just turn the stove off? Like, we never would have gotten called here. Like the apartment wouldn't be full of smoke if that stove could just turn itself off. And it was like this huge light bulb. I couldn't even sleep that night at the firehouse. I kept thinking of all the different calls I've been on that only if that stove could turn itself off. So I decided to go with it. I got a team together, people smarter than me, had more money than me, and we just started building it. And within about, 15 months, we had our first products. It was really, now we've done a lot of different products, but that was really quick from idea to having tooled up and product here in the States for us to sell. It was about 15 months. Yeah. So that was kind of our start right there. That's kind of how the idea came to be.
So I have a lot of questions, but since you mentioned the kind of the tooling aspect of it and the design first, what resources did you need to put together? Like, how did you go about that? Like, so now you have an idea. What was the next step you took?
Oh man, we look back on this. That's a great question. Like, I look back now because we're always doing, like right now we're launching products in Australia and Netherlands, and we're doing a really cool product for Lockheed Martin. And
oh, wow.
So it's really, really cool stuff going on. But after we had the idea, I'm always amazed now because we did it so quick, and now it seems like it takes so long to get a new product out. We did it so fast. We had the idea, we got a team together. This is a kind of a good learning experience. So we won a lot of money. There's always all these entrepreneur competitions throughout the country, and we just cleaned house. Like, we entered a lot of them, and we placed always in the top 3. And within like 8 months, we had like $100,000 like in cash. And being a firefighter, I'm like, we won. Like, this is it. Like, we hit the big time. Like, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And then the dirty secret is that's not a lot of money. Like, that just gets spent in a matter of like months.
Yeah. Anyway, you can spend 60, 70 grand on a tool.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So that was eye-opening. And luckily, so we were told to kind of use this like third-party engineering firm to design it for us. They designed the first fire avert for us, and we take it to our manufacturer, and they laugh. They're like, "We can't manufacture this. Like, it's just not manufacturable." And so we spent like 15 grand for them to design it, and the manufacturer says, "I'll do it for free," and they do it in a week. Like this big firm does it in like 3 months. This factory does it in a week, and it's way better.
The disconnect between engineering and the actual manufacturer. That's why I have a lot of customers that really emphasize their design for manufacturability aspects to their business, and I think that's really important.
Yeah, it is. So I recommend to people now, like as you're designing it, get your manufacturer on board early and have them involved in that process. Because you don't want to do what we did and showed up and they just kind of laugh at you and say, "We can't build that. It'll take," because the assembly would have taken like 40 minutes to assemble one unit, and we got to get that assembly time down to minutes.
Right.
So then the factories too, they want your business. So we took the plunge, and now it's, this is a whole different conversation now, but we took the plunge and went overseas, and the factories over there, they want your business. And so the tooling up wasn't like the $20,000, but they kind of bake it into your product cost over the years. So I think tooling up was like maybe $2,000. And then
that's not bad at all.
It's not bad.
Of course, you pay for it in the back end, right? I mean, you will pay for it.
And you don't own the tools. People always think, "Oh, I'm going to have someone overseas build my tools and I'm going to take them." From my experience, that's not going to happen. Like you don't own the tools unless you have that clearly spelled out and you spend the $20,000, $30,000, but then you might be able to take them, but you don't own the tools at the end of the day, usually.
Right. And that's important. Now, one thing that surprised me in our initial conversation was you it seemed like there was a pretty low quantity of parts that you could manufacture with one tool. So I guess in those cases, it doesn't really matter too much if you own the tool. But if you have a tool that's going to, pump out a couple million parts, you're probably going to want to own that tool, because by the time you bake in a couple cents on each part, you're going to end up paying a lot for the tool.
Yeah, you might pay up more. You might pay for that tool several times is what you're getting at there versus paying it up front. But when you're a young company, as a fire, I didn't have any money, and we never really went and raised a whole lot of money. We raised, like $100,000, $150,000 from friends, but that wasn't enough. So I didn't start paying myself until like 6 years into the company.
Yep.
So it was for our benefit to have the factories kind of bake the cost into the product and just them to own the tool.
That makes a lot of sense. So tell me, how did you get on Shark Tank, and were you successful there?
Yeah, Shark Tank was a lot of fun. So we're from Utah. We're based here, kind of our headquarters in by Provo, Utah. And one of my mentors says, "Hey, Shark Tank's here this weekend. They're doing an open call just for anyone come pitch. You should do it." I'm like, "I don't want to do it." And I'm like, "I don't think I'm going to." And then Saturday morning, I'm like, "All right, I'll go." And show up, you wait in line for a few hours. And then how it was, at least this was 9 years ago, but they give you 60 seconds and you're pitching your product. And on each side of you is someone else pitching their product. You're about like maybe 10 feet away, and you have one like judge in front of you, but you got to like block out the other noise from these other people pitching their product. And any judge can ask you a question just to throw you off. But it was really stressful. I think they just wanted to kind of see. Yeah. So like I'm talking to this one judge, and then out of the blue, the one over there might ask me something. So I'm like, I don't know if I'm supposed to pay attention to them.
Yep.
And I think they just want to kind of see how you handle stress.
Yep.
So,
which I think your experience as a firefighter probably prepared you for some of that. I mean, I know in the military, they throw in a lot of situations where you got, even in boot camp, you got drill instructors screaming on all sides, and really it's to kind of desensitize you to the chaos of these situations, and fires are chaotic, right? So you have to be prepared for that.
Yeah, that's a good call. Maybe that's why it worked. But so after that like 60-second pitch, they ask them questions like, "Hey, if we're interested, we'll contact you, next month or in 6 weeks." And then the next day they call and say, "Hey, we're interested." And they scheduled a follow-up interview like on Monday, and then another one for like almost every week. We had 1 or 2 interviews, and it kept getting higher up the food chain to kind of the decision maker. And then by end of the month, they said, "Hey, we want to put you on air. We want to fly you out to LA." So we interviewed in May. June, they fly us out to LA, and you spend one day in a warehouse with like a dozen attorneys, and every attorney gives you their spill of what this is, what it's not. You sign paper after paper, and then you go on the show, and it was really cool. So prior to Shark Tank, we sold maybe like 1 to 3 units on our website. Our website was never meant to be like our main channel of selling, but we sold like 1 to 3 units a month on our website. When Shark Tank aired, our mentor said, hey, just be prepared for it. Like everyone to be chatting online, but we're sitting there in our conference room and we air at East Coast and our traffic goes from like nobody on our website, like 50,000 people on our website. It was really cool. And then like the shopping cart, like the sound, when someone buys something, a little like ding, ding, every 5 minutes, just ching, ching, like all night, every
that
5 minutes we were
like
selling.
Ecstasy, right? Like you were probably just beside yourself.
It was really cool. Like what it taught me is that with the right marketing, you can sell a product. Like we went from like basically 0 to every 5 minutes selling one. And then it kind of died off, and then Central Time hit and a huge wave, and then Mountain Time and Pacific, everything. So, and that lasted for about a month, and it never went back down to where it was, but it cooled off quite a bit. So that was and then we mainly sell to multifamily owners, huge apartment complexes, and we go to trade shows, and they would come up and say, hey, we saw you on Shark Tank. And people, I think, just kind of buy it sometimes because it was a Shark Tank product. So
right. Yeah. If Shark Tank bought into it, then maybe I should too, kind of mindset.
Yeah. It just kind of builds credibility. And like our mentor said, just get a deal done. Don't worry about the logistics and the valuation. Just get a deal done because you need the world to see that they're backing the product.
So how does that work then? I honestly, I should watch more Shark Tank. I've watched some episodes, but it seems like they're usually trying to grab a pretty hefty percentage of the company. Was that your experience?
Yeah, it was. So we're talking, we really wanted a deal done with like Qubit or Lori, and they start going out, and Lori's kind of interested still. We're negotiating, and Lori starts asking for like royalties and equity, interest, all this stuff. And Mark's kind of like, Lord, you can't have equity and royalties and all this. And she's like, yeah, I see her about to go out. Like she's getting kind of like, oh yeah, that's probably not a fair deal. And so we negotiate a little more, but I really wanted to get a done deal with Lori because she's so powerful and just an awesome partner. So I just kind of said deal, and she's like, wow, great. And so we hugged, and that was it.
Wow. So is this a kind of in perpetuity sort of partnership? I mean, you're still partnered with her essentially?
Good question. So I think everyone knows now. I always tell people kind of what happened on Shark Tank happened on Shark Tank, but I think it's been 9 years. Everyone knows that we ended up not closing on the deal. Our legal team and Lori's legal team tried to negotiate and kind of iron some stuff out, and we just couldn't see eye to eye. So we ended up, unfortunately, not being able to close on the deal.
But a hell of a free promotion.
Yeah, we wish we could have got a deal done with her, but yeah, we didn't get a deal done. So she doesn't own any equity, but yeah, the promotion, the marketing was outstanding. It really helped propel the company.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, I guess I should have known this, but I didn't realize that you had to go through kind of all those different levels of pitches before you actually get to you're standing in front of the sharks, right? It makes sense, obviously, because you only want to get good ideas to them, but it kind of surprises me then what, really lousy ideas you sometimes see on there, right?
Yeah. It was interesting how many interviews we had, and then one of the last stage was, hey, make a video of yourself selling your product. We want to see what you look like on TV. So I had to hire, and I don't want to just my iPhone holding it on a tripod or something. So we had to hire like a camera crew to come in, and they made a really cool video for us to submit. A lot of steps. I mean, we probably went through a dozen different interviews.
Wow. Yeah, and I think a part of your success, obviously the product just makes sense. You saw the need, and a lot of times that's where these ideas come from. Like it's a problem you're trying to solve in your life. But I think a big part of your success too is I think you're just a good storyteller.
Yeah, potentially. I think with Shark Tank for sure, I think they're more interested in the story than really the product, because we didn't have the strongest financials, and I'm not a business guy. I didn't know what I was doing. I still don't know what I'm doing, but the story, like Firefighter makes a product, it was a cool story to kind of share. And it still is. And And it's really cool. So for the listeners, like what FireAvert is, we just made a small box that plugs in behind your stove. And we know if the stove is on, if the stove is on and it hears the sound of your smoke alarm, it waits about 30 seconds. If no one does anything, we just turn the stove off, remove that heat source before there's a fire. So no heat source, no fire. And we are now the leader in kitchen fire prevention across the country. We move about 10,000 of these every month into new homes. So it's been a really cool adventure.
Yeah, which I mean, I thought that was brilliant because I was kind of, when we initially talked, I was kind of wrap my head around like, what's the mechanism that actually triggers this? Is it like communicating with smart, smart smoke detectors through Wi-Fi, which obviously creates some potential disconnects and failure points. But no, I mean, the way that you did it is really impressive. And I want you to kind of talk a little bit about that. And then also the other question that I had that I think you should address is, what distance can it actually hear the smoke alarm at? Since normally you're not going to have that smoke alarm in the actual kitchen.
Great questions. Yeah. So when I first had the idea of talking to, so I brought one of my good buddies on that was a mechanical engineer, and we're like, man, should we wire it? Should we use radio frequencies? And then he's like, it was actually his idea to use sound. It was Mike Sanders. He said, hey, let's use sound. Like that sound can be the trigger. I'm like, that's awesome. Let's do it. That keeps costs down. And we kind of found out that smoke alarms are required by NFPA to have a certain decibel and cadence pattern to them. So that's part of our patent technology, is that we listen, hone in for that frequency, that decibel, and that's how we do the magic now. And then distance wise, it really depends on the acoustics of the home, but it works up about 60 feet away. And we're on version 5 right now, and next year we launch version 6. But version 1, like, it wasn't that good. And version 2 was maybe even worse. And so it struggled to recognize the difference of like AC/DC and a sound of a smoke alarm. Like,
right.
Yeah, like AC/DC was like the worst. Like we knew, like if someone plays AC/DC super loud, like Thunder Strike, I think it is, would cut it. So like
you
over
have them check
time,
a box when they're ordering it. Do you listen to any of these types of music?
yeah, and we're like, and you can't use your blender, and don't vacuum.
Don't watch any TV shows that might have fires in them.
Yeah, so it was a bunch of like just growing pains, and I remember like the earliest part of the company, the early years, like everyone would come in and it was like, everyone's on customer service today. We're going to get a lot of complaints and customer service, but it's just the growing pains every company goes through. We didn't know what we didn't know. And so we started learning false positives, and we started collecting every sound out there that a false positive had triggered FireAvert. And so we now have this test bank of like 1,000 different sounds that can possibly trigger it. And then we hired the best engineers in the world, I say, but we spent about $1 million on redesigning the firmware, the electronics. We upgraded everything from like, I don't know, just capacitors, everything to the best memory you can have on there. Anyways, now we don't have any false positives, and every product gets ran through our sound test bank, make sure it's not going to have any false positives before it goes out in the retail. So we've come a really long ways.
Wow. So how many years has it been now?
From idea, it's been 14 years.
Okay. Man. And so now you're selling, you said, I think like 10,000 units a month, something like that?
Yeah, 10,000 units a month. And we just signed distribution contracts this year with the Netherlands, over in Europe and Australia. Great partners over there. They've actually just, our partner in the Netherlands just won an award internationally for the technology over there. So we're rolling it out there. Probably Q4 it'll be ready. It's going through certification now, and so it's been really cool.
Wow. Yeah, it's amazing. So tell me about some of the challenges that you've been experiencing. We bring up tariffs a lot in these conversations recently because it's kind of top of mind for a lot of manufacturers. Especially, you mentioned, some or all of your manufacturing is out of the U.S. What are you seeing right now? How are you dealing with it?
Yeah, it's something we talk about every day in the office, and I should be worried, like I should be devastated, but for whatever reason, I'm not. I guess once you've been doing it long enough, and I just had the mindset that we'll overcome it. Like I have enough grit and willpower, and just I believe in the company that we will find a way to overcome this. We've had a lot of obstacles over the last 14 years, and we also got really lucky that I feel bad for a lot of these companies. So how tariffs hit is you don't get tariffed until it crosses like the port here in the US, like in LA. That's where we import right there. And so people that had shipments on containers, on boats, it was out of their control. So when the tariffs hit, they just got, I mean, that would bankrupt us. Like, honestly, like if we got hit with a container and it was tariffed at that 145%, it would be cheaper for me just to be like, you know what? Destroy the product, keep it. I cannot take it. Like, that will bankrupt us. So luckily we didn't have any shipments on the water. So we kind of just held product. We kind of froze it. And there's obviously, we had product in different stages. So we hurried and diverted onto Vietnam and different countries that had better terms and a final assembly there. And we were able to mark that country of origin. And we are being hit. But we are rapidly looking at India, Poland, Israel, even US countries. We're having US good manufacturing companies here in the US quote it, Mexico. So it is something scary, but we'll work around it. But China for us is fading very quickly. Every day we're less and less there.
Yep. Yeah, that would be a very tricky situation. And it seems like they would have to have some sort of exemptions, right? Like, because you're obviously then just hurting U.S. companies if they've got a container that's about to land on the port and it's going to more than double the cost of their product. There would have to be some sort of like a time delay, like, okay, it's for orders going forward, but it's not for the ones that are already in process.
Yeah, you and I would think that wasn't the case. It just hit like at midnight, and so we have a lot of different factories. And we order a lot of different parts. So like our main core product, the Fire Avert, we didn't have anything on the water, but we had power strips and solenoids and smaller stuff, less value. That did get hit, but luckily they weren't that much to begin with. So the company can absorb that and just lose money on those. But it's a nightmare for a lot of companies. I think a lot of companies, this will destroy them. Like if this doesn't get resolved, my personal opinion, if it doesn't get resolved by the end of summer, a lot of small companies will be out of business.
Yeah. And that's obviously negating the point of the whole, of the whole battle. Like the only reason we're doing this is hopefully to help U.S. manufacturers. So that would be very unfortunate. I think it's a good thing overall. And I think you have the right mindset. Just kind of stay cool, try to adjust to it. Things are going to work out. I think they are going to work out. But I think if it's done anything, it's immediately turned everybody's mindset into, can I find somebody in the U.S. to help me out with this? And they're at least thinking about it. And I think that's a really good, because we've been preaching this for my entire lifetime. Buy American made, buy American made. But it's like, it's just a cliche, right? Buy American made if it's cheaper than overseas, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's good if it does force people to think. But, I'm a big free market guy too. And I think that in a lot of cases, U.S. manufacturing needs to innovate. They need to find ways to become more competitive. Obviously, when you're paying somebody in China $5 an hour to assemble these products, you're not going to be able to compete in the U.S. But when it comes to advanced technology and robotics, automation, all that kind of stuff, we need to be more aggressive about competing on a global scale, with our U.S. companies. And I know it's easy to say. There's a lot of expense that goes into it. I mean, you're not just going to flip a switch and be like, oh, we're automated. It costs money. But we need to start thinking about it.
Yeah. And, I've had a lot of family in the military and being a firefighter. Nobody would love to make this product in the U.S. more than me. I think that would be the coolest thing. I'd love to do it. It's just the Fire Avert would triple in cost. Like it's so hard. So we are looking at it. Like we are in talks with manufacturers in Arizona and one I believe they're in Maryland that we're looking at that they're excited to quote it, and we'll see what their prices come back with. And we're looking at doing our own assembly here, buying our own machines to make our PCBA boards and just finding ways to do it. And on the other side of this whole coin is one of the businesses in our kind of our strip mall here. They make these really cool belt buckles, and they do all their manufacturing right here. They have their own tools. They pour their molds, everything, really cool belt buckles. And they love the tariffs. They're so excited about it because they said for the first time, China's not cheaper than us. And so their sales have gone up.
Yep.
So there's definitely two sides of the coin here, and I'm happy for them. And so it's going to hurt companies like mine. It's going to flourish companies like theirs. So it'll be interesting to see how it all kind of lands.
Yeah, I agree. So, when it comes to the marketing side of things, I always enjoy talking about this because obviously I'm a marketing guy and, really specialized in working with manufacturers. What have you been successful with? What's been the most successful kind of modality of marketing for you guys?
Oh, just hard work, just good follow up. Um, I can tell you what we haven't been successful at is the biggest opportunity for us is online sales and just sales on our website because there's more single family homes than multifamily homes, and on our website they pay top dollar, meaning multifamily they're buying hundreds or thousands at a time, so they get a huge discount. I
Right.
have spent so much time, so much money trying to crack the code to get online sales just to, just a machine and just sell hundreds of thousands of these, and I can't do it. Like
Mm,
still, and Shark Tank was our biggest peak, and we've dropped, and we still now probably sell like maybe 20 a month on our website. Like that's not even worth writing home about. So that's what we haven't been successful at. And I've spent a lot of marketing dollars. On the other hand, we go to a lot of trade shows. We spend over $100,000 on going to trade shows, and we meet the owners of these big apartment complexes, and we get their contact. We wine and dine them, send emails, help them to see the value of it, and that's where we find our success.
yeah. Yeah. So here's the product, right?
Yep.
So, just curious because I want to see if I can leave you with a tip that can help. Um, so if I'm the owner of a multifamily complex, I guess you build that persona for me real quick. So is this somebody that, like, I'm buying your product? Is this somebody that has already experienced some of these, stove fires in their apartment complex and it's cost them a lot of money to kind of renovate and, fix the damage?
Yeah, it is. So, like you and I have maybe never had a kitchen fire, but when you own 10,000, or our biggest customer has like over 80,000 apartment doors across the country. So they have a kitchen fire somewhere in their portfolio, like every week or every month. So they for sure they they have the same pain that you and I have, but on steroids. So when we meet them at a trade show, we talk to them. They're like, "Oh yes, we have a whole team that just kind of goes from renovation to renovation, fixing these fires, so we can help reduce that." And some customers we eliminate it, we limit that risk. So now their insurance premiums are staying low. It's just the headache of taking care of the aftermath of it. So, and they love the product. They usually put it like in a few apartment complexes, test it for 6-12 months, and they see huge success, and then they roll it out through their entire portfolio.
Gotcha. Okay. Um, yeah, and I see that you guys have put quite a bit of effort into writing various blog articles, trying to kind of capture that market. Because that's kind of one of the things I was thinking was if I'm that property manager, one of my tenants just had, something burn on the stove, cause some damage that I had to take care of. And I'm like, I don't want this to happen again. What am I gonna look for? How to prevent stove fires, right? How to prevent kitchen fires. So these types of articles are good, some of them anyways.
I think
Um,
what you're getting at, maybe they're not like I saw that one up there, like how to build a fire pit or something. Like, is that really the
right,
best?
yeah, that's not real relevant, at least as far as what I know about your products. And I noticed a lot of these articles too kind of have these non-transactional keyword sets. Um, like this one, House Fire Smoke, the Invisible Destroyer. So, like, you always want to think about the title of your blog articles as the keyword that you would expect somebody to Google to find it. And something like this, like, nobody's going to Google that. Obviously, it has a little bit of a kind of, uh, emotional appeal to it as if it were a social media post, but it's really a different sort of animal. Something like this, how to put out grease fires, is fine. However, once again, um, it's not exactly the right person, right? We're looking for the person that has already had the problem, and so you'd be more looking for like how to prevent grease fires, how to prevent stuff burning on your stove. So there's just like nuances, I think you're like 60% of the way there with some of this stuff. But I think if you could go into the data, which I use a tool called Google Search Console, and let me just think of a good example here. I didn't really expect I was going to be doing a demo for you, but since we're on it, we're on. Let me think of a good one here. Okay, here we go. Perfect. So this is another safety product. These guys invented this product that is, oh no, I guess I can't show you right now because I have to relog back in. But they made a product that is intended to prevent a overhead door from slamming down and injuring somebody, which actually firehouses are a great target market for that. Because there's a shocking number, something like 200,000 injuries from falling overhead doors every year. But at any rate, so we write blog articles for them, and they're really targeted towards that chief safety officer inside of a company, and so we're addressing things like warehouse safety. What are the things you need to be thinking about? And then just those transactional keywords like how to prevent overhead door failures and things of that nature. And we get a ton of really transactional traffic coming to that website and buying the product because of it. So those are just the kinds of things that you want to be thinking about in terms of like how to generate more sales through the website.
Yeah, I love it. I want to make our website just like, I want to be our best salesman. Like I have like 7 sales reps, and I want our website to outperform every single one of them. So I think you're onto some good stuff here.
Yep. Yeah. And the other thing that I wanted to chat with you about that kind of flows into the website is like, tell me some compelling statistics about kitchen fires that, that could help sell the product, or, number of deaths per year that originated from a kitchen fire. Do you have some of that information?
Yeah. So kitchen fires are the number one cause of home fires across just not the US, but even the world. So the number one, if you're going to have a house fire, if your home's going to have a fire, it's going to happen on your stove. Like your beautiful stove that you love to cook food on is the culprit for house fires. And nothing even comes close. Like I always ask people like, hey, what do you think is the number one cause of home fires? Like, oh, dryers. No, there's only like 3,000 dryer fires a year. And there's almost like 200,000 kitchen fires. So dryer fires are not a concern. And then so what the numbers come down to is every 4.5 minutes a fire department responds to a kitchen fire somewhere in the US. And it's the second most common cause of home fire fatalities, the number one cause of home fire related injuries, over $1 billion in damage every year. So it is.
Wow.
So it is. And that's in single family homes. And if you go to multifamily, the number goes from 50% to like 72% of all your fires in multifamily happen right there in the stove, all because someone started cooking and they forgot, they leave their stove on.
Wow. Yeah. And to me, those are the triggers. I mean, because selling online, it's an emotionally driven process. And so that's the information, like I just kind of took another look at your homepage when we were talking. It doesn't say any of that, right? Like prevent the number one cause of home fires in the US or globally or whatever. So yeah, that sort of information is perfect fodder for your market.
Yeah. The other fun stat that is out there is, so 10% of all the kitchen fires happen from our pets. So that you're gone and they smell food up there and they jump up and they hit the knob and they turn the stove on from pets doing it, 10%. So how we kind of solve that problem, well, our technology does it, but the really cool thing is about 3 years ago, we added radio modules, the option to have radio modules. You saw that FireAvert Pro. And so now if you're at the store, you get a real-time text when your stove turns on, and you could be like, wait, nobody's home right now. It shouldn't be on. And you can just turn it off and turn the stove off before there's even a smoke, before the smoke even sounds. You can just turn it off and prevent the fire.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. I thought your recommendation was me to get rid of your pets.
That too, maybe. Yeah.
We never grew up with pets in our house. And I, to me, I mean, I get why people have pets. I mean, it makes sense. But for me, it's like, I don't want something pooping on my carpet and getting hair everywhere and smelling and turning my stove on. And, it's just,
Yeah.
I've got kids to do that.
That's what we got. As I said, we got kids to do that. We don't have any pets either. And my kids want a dog, or sometimes we got them a fish. Like, we're a fish, it will die in a few months and we're done.
Yep. Yep. So you're volunteering now. You're not a full-time firefighter at this moment.
I'm
Or
not.
you
I did
are?
that. Yeah, I'm not full time. I did full time for a great city for 16 plus years there. And then I started the business after being on the department for 4 years, just pretty young firefighter. I started the business, and it was really just like, it was never meant to make money. It was just kind of like, this might be really cool, like hobby or project. Like, this might really work. And then 3 years ago, I just kind of got to the point where, like, man, I got to make it. I'm so busy. I'm stretched too thin. And so it was a really hard decision, but hung up the hat, retired from the firehouse. And so do this full time now. And where I live is a small, just volunteer fire department. So I volunteer like one night a week there, help out.
Okay. So what's kind of like your long-term goal for the company, or maybe intermediate term, in terms of revenue and growth?
Yeah. So like this, people always find this strange, but 100% honesty, this was never meant to make money. I never thought like, hey, Firebird can make a lot of money. It was more like, this could really like help people. This would be really cool. Money didn't start crossing my mind until I started getting all these bills for like the patent and products and just people helping out. And so I'm like, we better start making some money. But now, and we ran this out of my garage, my basement, and now we have an office space, and we're crammed in here. We have like 27 employees. And I never thought it would get this big, but now I realize, you know what? There's no limit to this. Like, we're going to be $100 million company here. I think the next 3 years we'll triple in size. We have amazing partnerships. We just signed a partnership with iApartments, and I won't mention their names because we haven't signed deals yet, but we have like 6 huge partners around the country, even the world, that we're signing deals with probably this year. And it's going to transform this company. Like, I see us just becoming a staple technology in every home.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if we can spend if we can spend $120 on what are those? Oh, arc fault breakers.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we can spend that money on a Fire Avert, I would think.
Yeah, and our technology, one of the products we're launching this year is, right now our technology is all plug and play, but it'll be the outlet in the wall. So during new construction, you just put our outlet in, and
Oh,
the home's
great.
protected. Yeah, so we see that as just being, and then we'll probably take that over time and try to make it part of safety code. Like, if
Yep.
NFPA or just just different organizations out there want to see this really help, that's where it's going to be, is just built in during construction.
Wow. Yeah, I mean the repercussions. I mean, imagine like if you could really prevent the majority of fires with one product, and not only that, but the tax on the fire department. If you're going out every day doing these calls, that gets expensive. I mean, it isn't cheap to fire up the truck and get everybody on there, right?
No, just it's not. I ran the numbers. I'm like a number like freak. I loved math. Like, that was the only subject in school that I did well at. Like, well, I had like probably like C's and D's, and then math was like an A. But I love numbers because it's the truth. And so I took, like, I called the city shops and said, hey, tell me all the costs on this ladder truck for maintenance, tires, oil changes, fuel, because we'd fuel up there. So they had every penny that went into that truck. And then I had the miles that truck was driven. And I started doing the math to drive that truck just to over to get lunch was like $100 to go. It was like $15 a mile that we drive. And so all these, like,
Wow.
yeah, it's crazy. And that was just the truck. That's not like the 4 firefighters, their salaries that you're paying there. It's a necessary expense. We got to keep these homes safe. Like, we cannot I'm not saying we shouldn't be doing this, but it's very expensive. So if we can limit the call volume that we're going on, we save taxpayers just thousands and
Yeah.
thousands of dollars.
Wow, amazing. Yeah, I love the product. I love what you're doing. I love the fact that it's saving lives and has like a very practical, widespread purpose and use. Um, I'm very excited to see what you do in the future here. I love the fact that you're innovating and you're thinking about new applications and new ways you can improve the product. So congratulations on building this awesome company, and thanks for coming on today, Peter.
Really appreciate it. Yeah, we love the journey. It's been fun, and even talking with you today, it's been a lot of fun. We appreciate it.